Who's really watching behind your eyes? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered who or what is truly observing the world through your eyes? In today's video, we'll go deeper than thought, deeper than the ego, and uncover the hidden intelligence behind your awareness, the one Carl Jung hinted at when he spoke of the self watching behind the persona. This isn't just philosophy, it's a mirror held up to your inner life, offering a path to radical self-recognition and transformation. As you listen, ask yourself, who's really behind your eyes right now? And if this sparks something within you, comment below with your thoughts. We'd love to know what this awakening means to you. Let's begin this journey together. 1. The illusion of the self. When a chimpanzee wakes up from anesthesia and reaches for the red dot on its own forehead, recognizing its reflection in the mirror, something extraordinary happens. Not just a scientific breakthrough, but a crack in the illusion we've long accepted as truth. Because that moment doesn't merely confirm the animal's self-awareness. It confronts us with an unsettling question. If even a chimp can recognize itself, then what exactly are you recognizing in the mirror every morning? The moment you catch your own eyes in your reflection, is it really you watching? Or is it just a habit, a performance, an echo of something deeper that you've long forgotten? The truth is, most people live under the spell of continuity. You assume you're the same person as yesterday because your brain tells you a story that feels seamless. But neuroscience suggests otherwise. Your self is a patchwork of fleeting thoughts, reconstructed memories, emotional reactions, and unconscious processes that rearrange themselves daily. Your sense of I is not an unchanging presence, but a moving target, built moment by forces you do not consciously control. The spiritual awakening begins when you stop clinging to that illusion and start observing it. When you realize that the narrator in your head isn't the true self, it's just the voice the system has created to keep the story going. The real you is the quiet watcher, the silent witness, the stillness behind the noise. Carl Jung understood this long before modern neuroscience caught up. He warned us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that. So much of your identity has been shaped not by your true essence, but by conditioning, trauma, expectations, and cultural programming. You've become an actor in a play you never auditioned for. And yet, you've mistaken the costume for your skin. You think you are the character, not realizing that your true self is the one watching the performance unfold from backstage. This is not just philosophy. This is your everyday life every time you doubt yourself, overthink, get stuck in a spiral of fear or shame or over-identification with roles that were never yours to carry. The experiments with split-brain patients show us something shocking. Even when the brain is physically severed, the illusion of one I continues. Each hemisphere generates its own reality, and yet the individual still reports being one unified person. That illusion of unity is maintained by language, narrative, and emotional coherence, but it is still an illusion. When false memories can be implanted, and those memories shape behavior, how can you trust your past to define you? And more importantly, why should you? Spiritual growth invites you to stop being defined by memory. and instead root your identity in presence, in awareness, in the observer that remains untouched by the stories, untouched by the wounds, untouched by even the labels you've worn for decades. In our modern world, we are constantly pushed to reinforce the illusion. Social media teaches you to curate your identity like a product. Schools train you to fit a mold. Family systems, even well-meaning, can pass down roles that keep you spiritually asleep. You're praised for consistency, for knowing who you are, for having a strong identity. But what if the greatest act of power is not knowing, but witnessing? What if the deepest freedom lies not in becoming more of who you think you are, but in letting go of the need to be anything at all? This is the paradox of awakening. You lose yourself to find the self that was never lost. Not the ego self, but the one who has always been watching, behind your thoughts, behind your face, behind your eyes. That presence cannot be named. It cannot be touched by thought. It is the eternal space where awareness lives, where love arises, where clarity begins. And when you connect to it, even for a moment, the illusion begins to fall apart, not in a terrifying way, but in a liberating one. You see the script, the actors, the stage, and you stop being swept up in the drama. You become the director of your own consciousness, the one who sees clearly, acts consciously, loves deeply, and rests in the stillness of simply being. That is not just spirituality. That is spiritual intelligence. That is true awakening. That is the wisdom Carl Jung tried to leave behind, not as a theory, but as a lived path, a mirror, not for your face, but for your soul. If today's message opened your eyes to the illusion of the self and stirred something deep within you, comment below. I choose to awaken beyond the illusion. Let's create a ripple of spiritual wisdom together. 2. Consciousness as construct, not creator. Right now, your brain is flooded with over 11 million bits of information every single second. Sounds, colors, smells, textures, memories, instincts, and subtle emotional shifts. But your conscious awareness only processes about 40 of them. Think about that. What you call yourself, your thoughts, your choices, your will, is navigating life on the slimmest thread of data. The rest, overwhelmingly vast and invisible, is filtered, decided, and acted upon beneath your conscious radar. This is not just a technical detail of neuroscience. It is a spiritual revelation. You are not the creator of every action you take. You are often the last to know. Neuroscientists like Benjamin Libet have shown that your brain initiates a movement hundreds of milliseconds before you become aware of the decision to act. And Michael Gazzaniga, through his studies of split-brain patients, discovered that even when the left and right hemispheres are severed, the speaking part of the brain will make up explanations for behaviors it didn't initiate, just to preserve the illusion of a unified self. The mind doesn't like gaps in its narrative, so it fills them in with a story. That story is what you call your life. This raises a powerful question. If you are not the author of your choices, then who or what is? Spirituality invites you into this mystery, not to frighten you, but to wake you up. Your conscious self is not the driver, it is the witness. The ancient sages and mystics have said it for centuries, and Carl Jung echoed it in modern form. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is not just psychological insight. It is a call to spiritual development. It means the ego, the constructed self, the mask. The voice in your head is not the real you. The real you is deeper, older, and far more expansive. It is the observer behind your eyes, the stillness beneath your thoughts, the presence that watches everything unfold without needing to explain it. Jung understood that consciousness was layered. The ego believes it is the whole of the self, but it is merely a spotlight on a vast, shadowed stage. The unconscious mind holds forgotten memories, archetypes, inherited instincts, suppressed desires, spiritual truths, and it moves you, often more than your waking mind ever could. But here is where spiritual development becomes essential. Because when you learn to observe your own mind without clinging to every thought or identifying with every impulse, you begin to see the illusion of control for what it is. The voice narrating your life is not your soul. It is your ego's interpretation of events. And when you begin to disidentify from that narrator, you open a doorway to something higher, a deeper intelligence, a divine presence. Not the kind of control that manipulates the world, but the kind that surrenders to something greater than thought. Presence, awareness, witness. You stop needing every answer, and you start trusting the silence between your questions. You stop forcing clarity, and you begin to feel into the unknown with grace. You stop telling the story and begin listening to it unfold. That shift is the beginning of true power. Not the power of ego, but the power of spiritual clarity. So the next time you feel like you're choosing something, ask yourself gently, was this choice made by awareness or by a story I've been told about myself? Was it inspired by presence or pushed by fear, habit, and old programming? And more importantly, can I stop in that moment, breathe, and return to the witness? The more you live in that space, the silent, observing self, the less you are pulled by confusion, chaos, or identity traps. You become rooted in your essence, not your ego. And when you live from the essence, you do not need to explain everything. You simply are. And in that being, there is wisdom. There is peace. There is the quiet truth that behind your eyes, beyond all thought, something timeless has always been watching, waiting for you to see that the one observing is the one you've been searching for all along. Are you ready to explore the illusion of control and meet the true observer within? If so, comment below. I will meditate to show your devotion to inner clarity and deeper consciousness. 3. You are a story. Your brain is telling itself. You are not who you think you are. You are who your brain imagines you to be. Every thought you've ever had about yourself, every memory you've clung to, and every belief you hold about your identity is a part of an internal narrative your mind is constantly weaving. This story isn't static. It's fluid, shifting every time you recall a memory, reinterpret an event, or experience a new emotion. Neuroscience shows us that memory is not a recording, it's a recreation. Each recollection is shaped by the present moment, influenced by what you currently feel, think, and believe. You remember not what happened, but what your brain believes is most useful to preserve your personal continuity. In essence, you are a self-generated myth, crafted not by truth, but by coherence. As Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But which self are you accepting? The one that's real or the one that's rehearsed? Every time you look into a mirror, what you see is not reality, but a hallucination your brain agrees upon. N.L. Seth's concept of controlled hallucination highlights that everything you experience is filtered through an intelligent prediction model. You think you see the world as it is, but what you truly see is your brain's best guess of the world, built on probabilities and patterns. That tree you admire? It isn't a tree. It's your brain interpreting wavelengths of light, filtered through biology, shaped by memory, influenced by emotional resonance. The sound of a friend's voice isn't the voice. It's the neural pattern that you've associated with safety, or maybe danger, depending on your past. What you call reality is really a projected internal simulation that your brain creates to help you navigate life. This is not a flaw. It's an evolutionary design. It's intelligence. It's spiritual wisdom encoded into your biology, revealing that the boundary between science and soul is thinner than we've been led to believe. The self, the I you identify with, is an illusion of consistency. You believe you are the same person who woke up this morning, who was hurt 5 years ago, who made that choice a decade back. But this continuity is a cognitive overlay, a mental glue that gives your life narrative shape. In truth, the self is an ever-changing stream of consciousness, woven together by stories, habits, language, and ego. You are not a fixed being. You are a verb, not a noun. Jung warned us that what we do not bring into consciousness will appear in our lives as fate. And this is the ultimate danger of not questioning the self. When you believe you are the story, you forget you are the storyteller. When you cling to your identity, you miss the awareness that watches silently from behind it. That observer, the witness behind your eyes, is your true nature. It has no name, no gender, no past. It is simply presence, spacious and timeless, waiting for you to notice it. And here lies the paradox. You spend your life trying to become someone, only to realize that the deepest peace comes when you stop being anyone. The more you awaken spiritually, the more you sense that you are not the one thinking your thoughts, but the one aware of them. You are not your voice, but the silence that listens. You are not your identity, but the space in which all identities rise and fall. This is not philosophy. This is direct experience. And the moment you truly see it, everything changes. You no longer chase validation because you remember the truth of your being. You no longer fear the future because you're rooted in something eternal. This is the spiritual awakening Carl Jung pointed toward, not just understanding your mind, but transcending it. Intelligence is not only knowing who you are, it's realizing who you are not. And spiritual wisdom is the courage to live from that truth. If today's insight opened your eyes to the story your mind is constantly narrating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments. Let's keep exploring the deep layers of consciousness and Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom together. 4. Eastern wisdom mirrors modern science. Buddhism's teaching of anatta, or no self, and Hinduism's concept of Atman, the silent witness consciousness, are not abstract spiritual doctrines. They are direct insights into the true nature of mind that mirror the findings of modern neuroscience. In Buddhist thought, the self is not a solid, unchanging entity, but a fluid construction, constantly shaped by perception, memory, emotion, and social conditioning. The ego, far from being the core of who we are, is seen as a mental formation, a temporary aggregation of thought that only appears stable because we cling to its narrative. Hinduism takes a complementary view, suggesting that behind this swirling dance of mental activity, there is a silent observer, the Atman, an unchanging awareness that watches all without attachment. This deep spiritual wisdom echoes startlingly with modern neuroscience, which has discovered that what we call the self is primarily an illusion generated by the default mode network of the brain. When this network is highly active, we become locked into stories about ourselves, constantly referencing our past, fantasizing about the future, and analyzing our identity. But when people enter states of deep meditation, the activity in this network significantly quiets down, and what emerges is an experience of peace, clarity, and presence, exactly what spiritual masters across ages have described as awakening. During these meditative states, many report the fading of personal identity, as if the boundary between the thinker and the thought dissolves. This phenomenon, long spoken of in Eastern traditions as the collapse of ego, now finds validation in the brain scans of meditators, where the regions associated with self-referencing grow quiet. The spiritual awakening that results is not the acquisition of new beliefs, but the dropping away of all that is false. Carl Jung, bridging the spiritual and psychological worlds, understood this deeply. He wrote that individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, is not about becoming more of the persona the world expects, but about integrating the unconscious, including the shadow and the self, into conscious awareness. Jung's ideas are fundamentally aligned with these ancient teachings. The journey inward is not one of self-construction, but of self-discovery. In our modern world, we are taught to define ourselves by titles, roles, opinions, and achievements. Yet none of these touch the core of consciousness. The silent awareness behind your thoughts is the real you, not the ever-changing emotions, not the beliefs you inherited, not even the memories you've clung to as evidence of who you are. This realization is the foundation of true spiritual wisdom. In daily life, this understanding can be profoundly liberating. When you observe your inner world rather than get swept up in it, you stop identifying with fear, jealousy, inadequacy, and instead begin to rest in the spacious awareness beneath it all. You begin to witness the drama without being consumed by it. This is not spiritual escapism, it's spiritual intelligence. You're not bypassing life, you're stepping into it with clarity and sovereignty. As Carl Jung reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Meditation becomes the gateway to that awareness. Stillness is not inactivity. It is the space in which your most intelligent, authentic responses arise. And as you return, again and again, to this quiet inner witness, you begin to experience life not as something to survive, but as something to truly see. Spirituality, then, is not about retreating from the world. It's about waking up to the part of you that was never asleep. Do you see the harmony between ancient wisdom and modern science? If so, declare your awakening in the comments. I am chosen by God, and I believe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of deep spiritual insight. 5. The observer is not a thought. It's awareness itself. You cannot observe the observer because the observer is not a thing to be grasped. It is the essence of awareness itself. When you turn your gaze inward in search of a self you can point to, That search dissolves into something wordless and ancient. What fades is the illusion of identity, the narrative you've been telling yourself, the personality you've constructed, the label society has placed on you. What remains is not a thought or a feeling, but a presence that is untouched by time, memory, or emotion. This presence has been quietly witnessing every chapter of your life. The moments of innocence in childhood, the heartbreaks that shaped you, the victories you celebrated alone, the stillness behind every breath as you sleep. It is not moved by praise or shame, not defined by what you've done or failed to do. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." This is not poetry, it is a spiritual truth. To awaken is not to acquire more knowledge, but to recognize the silent witness that has always been there, watching, waiting, observing without judging. The observer behind your eyes is not part of the mind. It is what sees the mind. It is not a voice, it is what hears the voice. It cannot be described, because every attempt to describe it turns it into an object, and it is not an object. It is awareness without form, without borders, and without narrative. This is the beginning of real spiritual development, not learning more, but unlearning the illusion that you are your thoughts. Thought can only reflect, analyze, and judge, but awareness simply observes. Thought is shaped by culture, memory, pain, and language. Awareness is shaped by nothing. You may experience anger, but awareness is not angry. You may remember trauma, but awareness is not traumatized. You may chase success or feel like a failure, but awareness is not chasing, and it never fails. It is always still, always present. And when you sit quietly, without needing to control or fix, you begin to feel it. You begin to return to it. In the noise of modern life, this awareness is often forgotten. We scroll through identities, mimic trends, and lose ourselves in a digital mirror that reflects only fragments of who we think we should be. But even while you're distracted, even while you're asleep, this awareness remains untouched, unchanged. It doesn't react, it doesn't crave, and it doesn't judge. It simply sees, and in seeing, it liberates. To know this is not to become someone new, but to finally stop pretending to be someone you're not. This is the turning point in your spiritual awakening. This is the moment when you realize that the peace you've been seeking externally is the nature of the one who watches. And while your ego might resist this truth, clinging to identity, craving validation, fearing dissolution, the awareness does not resist anything. It embraces everything with neutrality and grace. So the deeper lesson is this: you are not your name, your story, your wounds, or your thoughts. You are the timeless awareness that observes it all. This truth doesn't need to be believed. It can be experienced directly, here and now, by simply noticing that which watches your thoughts pass like clouds. It doesn't speak, yet it hears. It doesn't move, yet it feels alive. It doesn't age, yet it has been with you since the very beginning. And this awareness, this sacred witness, is the heart of all spirituality. It is the foundation of true spiritual development, not a path of becoming, but a path of remembering that before the mind, before the ego, before the world told you who you were, there was a still, wordless presence watching through your eyes, and it's still here. 6. Physics and mysticism converge. Quantum physics has revealed a truth so strange and profound, it mirrors what ancient mystics have whispered for centuries. The observer affects the observed. You don't just see the world, you shape it. When you observe an electron, it behaves differently than when you don't. Why? Because your consciousness is not passive. It's not just a light shining on reality, it's the brush that paints it. This is where science begins to sound like spirituality, and where Carl Jung's psychological insight meets the awakened mystic's inner knowing. Jung understood that consciousness wasn't merely a function of the brain. It was the source field that animates experience. He believed that deep within you, beneath the mask of ego and personality, lives a self that transcends time and identity, an intelligent awareness that watches, learns, and transforms. And this self, this pure observer, is not separate from the universe. It is the universe knowing itself through your eyes. When mystics say, "You are the universe in motion," they're not speaking in metaphor. Rumi said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. That drop is your consciousness. That ocean is your potential." This isn't just poetic, it's a direct description of your spiritual intelligence. You're not just in the world is in you, filtered through your beliefs, emotions, expectations, and attention. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, realizing that what you focus on magnifies, what you resist persists, and what you witness with clarity begins to shift. Your thoughts are not private ripples in your mind. They're waves in the quantum field. So the question isn't just, what are you seeing? But who is the one seeing it? Who's behind your eyes when no one else is around? Is it the conditioned self, clinging to identity and story? Or is it the aware presence, silently watching without judgment, always still, always whole? This observer within you doesn't need validation. It doesn't fear the unknown. It doesn't chase approval or shrink in the face of uncertainty. It watches, and in that watching lies your greatest power. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation not becoming something new, but remembering who you already are beneath the noise. You become whole, not by adding more, but by seeing more clearly. Not by doing more, but by becoming the one who sees. And the deeper you look, the more you realize. The world is responding to your gaze. You are in relationship with every moment, every person, every thought, and the quality of that relationship is determined by your awareness. There is no such thing as a neutral observer. In this spiritual wisdom, consciousness isn't just a flashlight. It's the sculptor, the stage, and the script. The moment you realize that the universe is looking through your eyes, not at you, but as you, everything changes. The illusion of separation begins to dissolve. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop searching and start seeing. And in that seeing, you come home to the intelligence that's been watching all along. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights where physics and mysticism beautifully converge. Tap the notification bell so you never miss a moment of truth. And if this message resonates with you, type in the comments, "I am aligned with the intelligence of the universe." 7. The question that transforms. You have never actually seen your own face, only its mirror image, distorted by glass and shaped by lighting, distance, and perception. You've never truly heard your own voice, either only recordings and echoes, filtered through technology or bouncing back through walls. And if that is the case, then what exactly is doing the seeing? What is doing the hearing? What is aware of all of this experience? That question, subtle yet revolutionary, invites you into a realm far deeper than identity. It calls you into direct encounter with the witness within. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And perhaps nothing pulls the curtain back on the unconscious more powerfully than asking, what is watching from behind your eyes? You may believe you are your thoughts, your memories, your voice in your head. But pause. Observe the one who is observing. That presence, the quiet, unwavering intelligence, is not your job title, not your story, not your trauma. It's not even the voice narrating your thoughts. That presence existed before anyone taught you your name, before any role was assigned to you. In spiritual development, this awareness is often called the higher self or pure consciousness. It is what remains when every thought fades and every mask is removed. It is the seer, untouched by what is seen. And the moment you realize this, your life begins to transform, not because something outside changes, but because you no longer confuse yourself with the noise of the mind. The illusion of the self, the persona you've built and defended, will try to reassert itself. It will whisper to you that you are your wounds, your desires, your history. It will urge you to identify with your social media profile, your bank account, your successes or failures. But something deeper has already awakened. A spiritual intelligence is now aware that it has been watching all along. And once this question has been asked, what is aware of being aware? There is no way back to sleep. You begin to notice the inner space where thoughts come and go. You see emotions rise like waves and fall again, without needing to ride every one of them. You feel pain, but it no longer owns you. You feel joy, and it flows through you without needing to be grasped. This is the threshold of true spiritual awakening. Jung taught that the greatest journeys are inward, and that the goal is not perfection, but wholeness, the integration of what has been hidden. And it is this question, this silent turning of your attention inward, that becomes the portal to wholeness. You begin to live not from reaction, but from presence. Not from illusion, but from clarity. Not from fear, but from deep inner knowing. The more you observe, the more the unconscious is illuminated. And the more you illuminate, the freer you become, not just spiritually, but emotionally, psychologically, and existentially. Because once you recognize that you are the witness behind your own eyes, the entire world changes. Not because the world has changed, but because you have awakened to the truth of who is watching it all. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unseen layers of self-awareness and the mysteries Carl Jung dared to explore. Remember, the observer behind your eyes might not be who you think it is, but awakening to that truth is where your spiritual growth begins. If today's message sparked a new insight or left you questioning your own perception, that's a sign you're exactly where you need to be. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who's ready to awaken, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss another moment of deep reflection and transformative discovery. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay conscious, stay curious, stay connected. If you hate visitors, Carl Jung says this about your soul: Solitude gives birth to the original in us, Carl Jung once said. In a world that constantly demands our presence, what if the deepest parts of your soul are quietly asking for space? If you've ever felt uneasy about unexpected visitors or found comfort in the stillness of your own company, you are not alone and you're not broken. There may be a profound spiritual reason behind your need for silence and separation. In today's video, we explore what Carl Jung revealed about those who find peace in solitude, and why your discomfort around visitors might reflect something sacred about your soul's path. Do you resonate with this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's open up a conversation about the quiet power of inner space. 1. Discomfort with visitors is not a flaw. It's a soul signal. There is a certain kind of person who finds it difficult to welcome unexpected visitors, not because they dislike others, but because the interruption feels like a violation of something sacred. Carl Jung, with his deep understanding of the psyche and soul, would never label this behavior as rude or antisocial. Instead, he would see it as a profound indicator of a soul that has awakened to its own energetic boundaries. When someone who is sensitive, intuitive, or spiritually attuned hears a knock on the door, it isn't just a physical sound, it's an energetic disruption. Their inner world, carefully constructed and tenderly guarded, does not open easily. The home for such individuals isn't just a structure, it's an extension of their aura, a temple of their inner stillness. And the presence of others, however well-meaning, can feel like an intrusion on that sacred frequency. For spiritually sensitive individuals, this resistance to visitors often stems from an invisible but very real layer of protection. It is not about the people themselves, it's about the sudden shift in vibration, the unannounced energy exchange that takes place when someone crosses the threshold. Jung taught that introverts and spiritually inclined souls draw energy from solitude and inward reflection. Their life force is not replenished by conversation, but by contemplation. They do not fear people, but they cherish silence. They are not hiding from the world. They are protecting what is too rarely honored in modern life, their own soul space. And this protection is not a weakness. It is spiritual intelligence. It is emotional awareness. It is a deep-rooted understanding that your inner world must be preserved in order to remain whole. This discomfort is often heightened in today's hyper-connected, overstimulated culture, where being constantly available is praised and solitude is mistaken for sadness. But spiritual awakening requires the exact opposite: disconnection from noise and reconnection with self. The resistance to unexpected visits is not an aversion to love. It's a commitment to alignment. It's the refusal to abandon your inner sanctuary for the sake of politeness. And if someone interprets that as coldness, they misunderstand the nature of boundaries and the depth of spiritual growth. Just as we do not open our heart to everyone we meet, we do not need to open our door to every knock. Protecting your space is an act of sacred rebellion against a world that constantly demands your attention and energy. Even in psychology, this desire for solitude is seen as a sign of advanced self-awareness. The individual who chooses silence over social obligation is not withdrawing in fear, but returning to wholeness. Jung understood that the soul needs time to incubate, to breathe, to integrate the chaos of the external world. Visitors often arrive with stories, emotions, or vibrations that do not align with your present state. And when you're in a deep phase of healing, reflection, or energetic cleansing, even the kindest guest can feel like too much. Your body knows before your mind does. That tension in your chest, that subtle urge to withdraw, is not to be ignored. It is the wisdom of your nervous system and soul acting as guardians of your peace. Honor it. Trust it. Because your need for solitude is not a phase, it's a spiritual compass pointing you back to yourself. Do you ever feel uneasy when someone enters your space? If so, share your thoughts in the comments and let others know they're not alone. And if you've never explored what this discomfort might mean for your soul, comment below. I'm ready to understand my inner world. Let's awaken this spiritual wisdom together. 2. Introversion is an energetic necessity. Carl Jung understood something most people overlook. Introversion isn't about being shy or antisocial. It's a deep, energetic orientation of the soul. When you feel drained after a visit, when the sound of a knock unsettles your entire being, or when a simple conversation leaves you needing hours of silence to recover, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your psychic system is highly attuned, sensitive to energies that most people ignore. Visitors don't just bring stories. They bring emotions, unresolved wounds, unspoken intentions, and invisible frequencies. And when you are on a path of spiritual development, when your inner world is in the delicate process of growth and alignment, every external interaction becomes an energetic exchange. You're not just listening, you're absorbing. You're not just hosting, you're processing. You're not being distant, you're protecting sacred inner ground that is under construction. Your need for solitude is not a personality trait, it's a spiritual imperative. When Jung spoke of individuation, he was pointing to a lifelong journey of becoming whole, of integrating shadow and light, of listening to the truth of the self over the noise of the world. This process is quiet, subtle, and often misunderstood by those who seek constant stimulation. But for the introverted soul, silence is not an absence, it is a sanctuary. It's where the soul remembers who it is beneath the masks, where the nervous system softens, where the divine whispers are finally heard. In these moments of stillness, the chatter of others fades and something deeper emerges, a sense of clarity, a knowing, a reconnection to inner truth. And it's in these spaces that spiritual wisdom blooms. You begin to realize that your discomfort with visitors isn't about dislike. It's about energetic preservation. It's about knowing, often unconsciously, that your inner space is being stirred, not always with intention, but with intensity. And while others may recharge by being together, your restoration lies in being alone with your thoughts, your spirit, your breath. You may feel guilty for saying no to invitations, or you may wonder if something is wrong with you when the presence of another person feels like too much. But Jung's psychology reminds us that every soul has its own energetic blueprint. Yours is designed to turn inward, to find peace in reflection, to grow not through crowds, but through quiet. This is not a flaw. It's a sacred design. And the more you evolve spiritually, the more sensitive you become to what enters your field, be it voices, emotions, or energy that no longer aligns. You become a gatekeeper of your own sanctuary. And that discernment, that quiet knowing of when to open and when to close, is not a weakness, it's mastery. As your spiritual development deepens, you realize you don't owe anyone your constant availability. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself protection. You owe yourself space to become. So the next time your body resists a knock at the door, or your spirit hesitates before letting someone in, trust that signal. It's not fear, it's wisdom. It's not avoidance, it's alignment. You are not meant to be everything to everyone. You are meant to honor your energy, to nurture your soul, to walk gently through your own unfolding. Let solitude be your teacher. Let silence be your medicine. Let boundaries be your form of love. Because in the end, your spiritual awakening is not something you need to explain. It's something you live, moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath, in the sacred stillness where your soul finds home. Do you feel drained by unexpected visits? Maybe it's not a flaw, but a spiritual sign. If you resonate with this, comment below. I will meditate to honor your energy and reclaim your inner peace. 3. The home reflects the soul. Carl Jung taught that the home is not merely a place to live, it is a symbolic map of the self, a sacred architecture of your soul. Each room reflects a hidden layer of your psyche. The kitchen nurtures your instincts, the living room projects your social identity, and the bedroom protects your inner vulnerability. So when someone crosses the threshold into your home, it's more than a visit. It's an energetic encounter. They are not just entering a space. They are stepping into your field, brushing up against your emotional boundaries, your mental clarity, your spiritual essence. And if you are in a season of inner healing, integration, or profound transformation, their presence, no matter how well-meaning, can feel like an emotional invasion. You might feel a tightening in your chest, a resistance that isn't logical, but deeply intuitive. That discomfort is your soul speaking. It's your body protecting the silence you need in order to change. And it's not a flaw, it's intelligence. It's spiritual wisdom. You are not being rude. You are not broken. You are becoming. When you feel an aversion to visitors, it's often because your nervous system is undergoing recalibration. During the process of individuation, the unfolding of the true self, separate from the collective persona, you become more sensitive to energies, sounds, movements, and intentions. You begin to notice the way others carry their chaos into your calm. Their conversations, expectations, or projections disrupt the delicate alchemy happening within you. The outer noise collides with your inner silence, and your soul resists. You feel the need to close the door, not just physically, but energetically. And in that moment, it's not about isolation. It's about protection. You are not pushing others away out of fear. You are pulling yourself inward out of reverence for the sacred work being done within. This resistance to visitors is not a personality defect. It is a sign of psychological depth. It means you are evolving. You are moving from the external to the internal, from performance to presence, from pleasing others to honoring yourself. The world may not understand this need for silence. In fact, it may label you as distant or cold. But Jung reminds us that loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. What's important to you now can't be shared over coffee or small talk. It's unfolding in moments of breath, solitude, contemplation. It's happening in your quiet rituals, in the space between thoughts, in the light falling across your floor, in the way you rearrange your inner furniture to match the new soul that's emerging. You're not rejecting people. You're choosing presence. You're not avoiding connection. You're redefining what connection means. Because for someone doing the work of awakening, not every knock deserves an open door. Some doors must remain closed so that your soul can open. And that is not selfish. That is sacred. That is spiritual intelligence in action. If your home is your sanctuary and your soul thrives in stillness, comment below, "My home reflects my soul," to affirm your truth. 4. Visitors activate the persona and the shadow. Hosting guests in your home may seem like a simple act of hospitality, but for the spiritually sensitive and those undergoing deep spiritual awakening, it often stirs an invisible storm within. When someone crosses your threshold, you're not just offering tea and small talk. You're being asked, sometimes unconsciously, to step out of your authentic self and put on the socially acceptable mask, the persona. As Carl Jung explained, the persona is a carefully crafted mask we wear to function in society, to please, to be polite, to meet expectations. It helps us adapt. But when that mask is forced upon us in the sacred stillness of our own space, it becomes a source of inner friction. You might find yourself smiling out of obligation while your soul quietly aches for solitude. The discomfort is not rudeness, nor is it social dysfunction. It is the soul resisting a false performance. When we suppress our truth to appease others, especially in the spaces where we're meant to feel most free, we risk losing touch with who we truly are. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And nowhere is that more vital than within the walls of your sanctuary, where masks should be laid to rest and the soul allowed to breathe. Beyond the social mask, there is a deeper layer often triggered when visitors arrive: the shadow. This is the hidden part of yourself that holds the suppressed, rejected, or unresolved aspects of your psyche. It's not visible to others, and often not even to yourself, until something or someone pulls it to the surface. A guest might say something innocently, or exhibit a behavior that unconsciously reminds you of a past wound, an old betrayal, or a buried insecurity. Without realizing it, your body tightens, your energy drops, and your emotions become difficult to manage. You don't know why you suddenly feel drained, annoyed, or overwhelmed, but this is the shadow rising. Jung believed that the shadow must be brought into consciousness to heal, and that discomfort is often its signal flare. The house that was once peaceful now feels energetically hijacked, not because the person intended harm, but because their presence activated something unprocessed inside of you. Spiritual awakening is not just about feeling good or reaching bliss. It's about seeing clearly, and that includes recognizing the subtle ways your peace is disturbed and why. This is why protecting your energy is not selfish, it's essential. In modern life, we're trained to ignore these inner cues. We're told to be nice, to entertain guests no matter how we feel, to tolerate discomfort for the sake of appearances. But spirituality calls you back to honesty. It invites you to notice what your body, your spirit, your emotional field is saying. If your energy dips the moment someone walks in, if you find yourself needing hours or even days to recover after a short visit, that's not just introversion, it's spiritual intelligence speaking. Jung would affirm that individuation, the journey toward wholeness, requires solitude conscious boundaries, and the courage to face all parts of yourself without judgment. You're not here to be endlessly available, constantly agreeable, or socially perfect. You're here to become whole. And that process sometimes demands distance. It demands that you honor your truth, even when it's inconvenient. In a society addicted to connection, choosing silence, space, and self-protection becomes a radical act of spiritual self-love. You are not rejecting people, you are accepting yourself. And in that acceptance, your soul finds the freedom to heal. If this insight into the persona and the shadow spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let's uncover more about this powerful truth together. 5. The hermit archetype lives within you. If the sound of a doorbell or the thought of someone entering your space stirs a quiet tension in your body, you're not broken. You may be being called inward by something ancient and powerful within you. Carl Jung called this energy the hermit archetype, and it doesn't signal dysfunction or antisocial tendencies, it signals a sacred threshold. The hermit lives in all of us, quietly waiting for the moment when we no longer feel at home in the noise of the world, when small talk begins to taste like dust, and the only thing that feels real is silence. The hermit is the soul's invitation to retreat, to pause the endless performance of life and enter into the sanctuary of solitude, not as escape, but as transformation. Jung believed that individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, demands these quiet seasons. And if you found yourself resenting visitors, avoiding invitations, or craving the stillness of your own home, it may be because your psyche knows that this inner work cannot be done in crowds. In a society that glorifies availability, rewards overstimulation, and pressures us to always say yes, honoring your discomfort is a radical act of spiritual development. When you stop feeling like yourself in social settings, or notice your energy depleting faster than usual, it's not necessarily depression or laziness. It might be evolution. Just as a caterpillar must cocoon in darkness before becoming a butterfly, so too must we embrace these silent spaces if we wish to emerge transformed. The hermit does not hate people. The hermit simply knows that there are moments when being alone is the only way to hear your truth. You're not rejecting others. You're reclaiming your essence. You are peeling back the layers of who you were taught to be so that who you truly are can rise. You are learning to speak a more ancient language, the language of intuition, presence, and still awareness. This journey inward requires courage because it often lacks validation. No one applauds your silence. No one throws a party for your boundaries. But deep spirituality doesn't need applause. It needs truth. Jung taught that real transformation begins with inner confrontation, and you cannot confront yourself while being endlessly distracted. When the inner hermit awakens, it asks you to simplify, to surrender, to step away from what drains and return to what nourishes. Even if the world tells you to be more social, more open, more available, your soul might be whispering less. Less noise, less chaos, less pretending, more presence, more clarity, more you. There is deep intelligence in your solitude. It is not isolation. It is alignment. It is the soil from which authenticity grows. The more you honor your need for space, the more spiritually aligned you become, because you begin living in rhythm with your inner seasons instead of forcing yourself to match the pace of a chaotic world. Every time you listen to that quiet no inside when someone asks to visit and you don't have the energy, you are practicing self-respect. Every time you choose silence over stimulation, you are tending to the garden of your soul. Your spiritual awakening may not look loud. It may not look impressive, but it is real, and it is sacred. This is the path of the hermit, the quiet, powerful unfolding of a soul that is no longer willing to abandon itself for the comfort of others. In this silence, you are not lost. You are finally being found. If you're still with us, comment below, "I'm honoring the hermit within." Your voice helps us deepen this journey into spiritual wisdom and Carl Jung's insights. 6. Solitude is not isolation. It's a path to wholeness. If you often feel a deep discomfort when someone rings your doorbell, when a visitor disrupts the calm of your space, or when you're expected to socialize just because it's polite, understand this: your response is not a flaw. It's a reflection of your inner spiritual intelligence. Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." This means that your yearning for solitude isn't about rejecting people. It's about protecting the sacredness of your inner world. When you say no to unexpected guests or guard your quiet hours fiercely, you are actually honoring something ancient and wise within you. You're creating a boundary not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for your own energy, your mental clarity, your emotional balance. This is not selfish. This is soul care. In the teachings of Carl Jung and other deep psychological and spiritual frameworks, solitude is seen as a gateway to wholeness. Not the kind of isolation that disconnects you from life, but the kind that reconnects you with your authentic essence. There is a quiet power in preserving your space. It gives you room to notice your thoughts, integrate your emotions, and align your spirit with your truth. When you're constantly surrounded by people, constantly accommodating their needs, their timelines, and their emotional weight, you begin to lose sight of your own internal compass. Jungian spiritual wisdom teaches that in order to truly individuate to become the person you were born to be, you must withdraw from the world temporarily so you can learn how to meet it again with depth, awareness, and power. When you feel that deep resistance to interruption, you are not being rude. You are listening to a signal from your soul that says, it's time to turn inward. So many people misunderstand this trait and call it antisocial or distant. But those with sensitive, awakened spirits know that energy is real. Conversations carry energy. Interactions, even brief ones, have weight. If your energy field is delicate, empathic, intuitive, or going through transformation, you simply cannot afford to entertain every visitor, every call, every knock on the door. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about your peace, your purpose, your spiritual evolution. When you choose solitude, you are actually refining your internal vibration. You are not hiding. You are preparing. You are not disconnected. You are deeply connected to something higher than the social script. You are building a relationship with your own soul. And that is the most important relationship of all. Saying no to visitors doesn't mean you don't love people. It means you are aware of how precious your attention, time, and inner space are. Every time you say no, you are saying yes to clarity, to healing, to deeper levels of presence. You're choosing sacred alignment over shallow obligation. You're choosing to be whole instead of always available. And that takes courage. It takes a level of maturity and inner security that not everyone will understand. But that's okay. The path of spiritual awakening is not about being understood by the masses. It's about understanding yourself. So protect your silence, guard your energy, trust your inner signals. And know this: the solitude you choose today is the soil where your next level of transformation will grow. If this truth resonates with your soul today, drop a comment below. Solitude leads me to wholeness. Your voice helps others walking the same spiritual path feel seen. So if you've ever felt uneasy about unexpected visitors or find peace in solitude, remember, there's nothing wrong with you. As Carl Jung suggests, this might be a deeper sign of your soul's unique structure, your boundaries, your spiritual rhythm. In a world that often rewards noise and connection, honoring your need for quiet and space is not a flaw. It's a form of wisdom. If this resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom so you don't miss any of our future insights. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell. We're just getting started on this journey within.